Bluetooth speakers have become so common that there are now several niches of different types of Bluetooth speakers for different purposes. Case in point, the retro amplifier style speaker, which is made to look like a classic guitar amp, and specifically this one here. This is the AU-4 Bluetooth speaker from Airpulse, a sister brand of Edifier, who've made a name for themselves in the market of home and mobile speakers that perform above their price point. Let's take a look at the AU-4 and see if it's a good choice for your setup. Before we dive in, I want to mention that Edifier sent me the Airpulse AU-4 for the purpose of reviewing it. I was not paid to make this video, and Edifier has no input on my review. I do have an Amazon affiliate link in the description for you if you're interested in picking up the AU-4 and you'd like to support this channel. Alright, so a quick background on Airpulse and Edifier if you're not familiar. Edifier is an audio company founded in China in 1996, and they've been in the consumer market of speakers for years. Airpulse is a product line of speakers that were originally designed by Phil Jones, an audio industry pioneer with a lot of credits to his name, including designing the AE-1 near-field monitor in 1987 that was used in Abbey Road Studios. Airpulse speakers are currently distributed by the Platinum Audio Systems Company, which was founded in 2004 with investment from Edifier, and Phil Jones is still head of the engineering of Airpulse products. According to their website, the AU-4 even says designed by Phil Jones right on it. So all that to say, if you haven't heard of either of these brand names before, there is some serious audio experience behind them, so we can expect a quality product here. Okay, let's get into the details of the AU-4, and of course, the main thing that matters here is how it sounds. So let's get you a couple of audio samples of a couple different music genres, then we'll cover the specs and features, then we'll talk about some pros and cons, and we'll also take a look at how it compares to another popular speaker in this niche. The AU-4 is a powered speaker with a single 4-inch driver powered by a 35-watt Class D amplifier from Texas Instruments, and AC power is required. The frequency response of the speaker is 59 Hz up to 17 kHz. Connectivity includes Bluetooth 5.1 with aptX HD compatibility, a 3.5mm input, and a 1/4-inch line-in. Construction of the cabinet is MDF with a simulated leather finish available in 2 colors. The front grille and other hardware is a mixture of metal and plastic, but most of the components are metal. The top of the unit includes a volume dial as well as EQ dials for bass and treble, along with switches for power, connection mode, and Bluetooth reset. The speaker is 6.3 by 7.6 by 7.9 inches, and the weight is 2.7 kilograms or 5.9 pounds. The MSRP of the AU-4 is $279 US, and it can be found on Amazon and on the Airpulse website. The price is occasionally discounted on Amazon, so check the link in the description for the current price. All right, now let's do a quick comparison to a popular choice that you could consider a direct competitor of the AU-4 in the same niche of Bluetooth speakers. Of course, there are lots of competitors out there, but the Marshall Acton 3 offers guitar amp styling and the price point is $279, the same MSRP as the AU-4. However, at the time of recording this video, it's currently on Amazon for $227. So I think it's just been out on the market long enough that you can find it for a discount fairly easily. But looking past the price and styling, the Acton does have a few differences. There are previous versions. There is an Acton 1 and 2. I'm talking about the 3 specifically. There are 2 independent tweeters in addition to the center driver, the center speaker cone, and they are slightly angled. There is a 3.5mm input, but no 1/4" input. It does have EQ knobs for bass and treble. The Bluetooth connection is not aptX compatible, so there is no HD audio streaming here, only standard SBC or AAC, depending on the device. That does not mean, however, that the sound quality is poor, so let's do a couple back and forth sound samples of the Acton 3 and the AU-4 just to give you a reference point of a similar speaker. All right, now let's talk about some pros and cons for the AU-4. We'll start with some pros. First up, the connectivity is great. You've got Bluetooth, a 3.5mm input, plus you can connect instruments that have a 1/4" output and other devices like audio interface monitor outputs if you have a TS to TRS cable. The company told me that the impedance of the 1/4" input is 100 kiloohms, and while I'm not a musician and I don't own an instrument, I was able to get my hands on a concert ukulele and seems like it works. Another pro is the aptX HD compatibility. I do hear a slight bump in audio quality when switching from standard SBC to aptX on my Android phone. I'm guessing that with YouTube audio compression, it's probably going to be hard to hear any difference between the samples that I provided, but in person, I do hear a small difference in quality, so it's nice to have that support. The speaker is also fairly compact. It's not exactly portable because it requires AC power. We'll get back to that in a second, but it also doesn't take up a huge amount of space on a shelf or a table, and less horizontal space certainly than the Marshall Acton, which is wider. The build quality is also excellent. The materials are high quality, and I have no complaints about the assembly or the construction. It feels very solid. It's got a hefty weight to it. It's got these handy carrying kind of arms up here on top. All of these switches and knobs feel very good. None of them are wobbly. The actual knobs have a nice damping to them. They feel like a good amount of resistance there, but they also turn smoothly. Overall, just everything is very nice quality here, which I would expect for this price. It also gets plenty loud. Now, this is not for extra large rooms or big wide open spaces, but an average size living room, a family room, an office, it gets plenty loud without introducing distortion. So just keep in mind, you're not going to like be able to fill an auditorium with sound with a speaker like this, but it's not meant for that either. In fact, I thought that this actually gets a little bit louder than the Marshall Acton 3 does, not in general, but louder before introducing any distortion compared to the Acton 3. Now, the overall sound quality is good. There is, of course, subjectivity here, and I do have one minor con related to the sound, but it does justice to multiple genres of music, and the bass is well controlled. To me, it never sounds super muddy, even if you boost it with the EQ knob, which is not the case with the Marshall Acton 3. You can definitely overdo the bass pretty easily with the EQ knob there, to the point where it gets muddy and just sounds like it's being overdriven by the bass. All right, now before we talk about cons, I have a couple of things that I want to include in what I call the neutral category. I do this in most of my reviews. Some people may consider some of these things cons, but not everyone will, and so to me, they're kind of in the neutral range. First, there is no Wi-Fi or smart device integration, meaning you can't give it commands for Google, Amazon, or Alexa. You have to give those commands to your phone. To me, this is a neutral thing, not a con, and it's just good to be aware of, but it's not a con because the speaker is in a specific niche of the powered speaker market. It's targeted at customers looking for something very specific, which is not an all-purpose speaker for smart device control and music all built into one device. It's just not targeting that audience or that group of customers, and so to me it's okay that it doesn't have that feature. But that could rule this speaker out for you. If that is something high on your priority list, you just have to have it, then yeah, this one's not for you. One other thing in this category is the AC power. It's not the kind of Bluetooth speaker that has a built-in battery that you can just bring anywhere. So that means it is not truly portable because it needs to be plugged in, and that may matter to some people. But again, it's not trying to be one of those speakers. So to me, this is not really a con. All right, now let's talk about a couple things that I do think are cons about the AU-4. First, a couple of small things about the physical design. I do personally like the overall look and style of the AU-4, which is subjective. You might not like it, but that's totally up to your personal taste. But there are a couple of things here that I do consider downsides, and they could be minor here, but it has to do with the inputs and the power connector. The 3.5mm and 1/4" inputs are on the top. This could have been an aesthetic design choice, but I don't care for inputs being on the top for two reasons. One is definitely subjective, and that's just the look. When you have wires plugged into the top here, you just kind of have this messy look, and I just don't care for that. But the other reason is that open jacks pointed up are just asking to collect dust. It seems like they should be on the back to me. Now, there isn't really room on the back with this designed the way it currently is, but I just feel like those jacks belong on the back. And with the AC plug, I kind of have the same feedback here. It's on the side. Again, this feels to me like it should be on the back. It just looks a little strange sticking out the side. It also means if you were putting this like on a bookshelf in between some books, you're gonna have sort of an irregular gap here because you've got a power cable sticking out of one side and not the other. So those two things are small downsides to me personally, but you may not care about them. I do, however, have two cons relating to the sound. Neither one is a deal breaker to me, but I did notice both of them while testing them out. The first is the directionality of the sound. Because this is just a single speaker in the front here, it's pushing sound straight ahead, and it sounds significantly different if you're sitting off to the side. So let's say you have a pretty long couch and you have this on a table in front of you. If you're seated directly in front of the speaker, you've got exactly how it was intended to sound. That's what you're gonna hear. But if you're seated at either far end of the couch, you're gonna hear something slightly different. There's coloration to the sound when you are at an extreme angle. Speakers that have multiple drivers positioned at angles like the Marshall Acton 3 tend to sound a bit better from side angles in my experience. Now the second thing was that while I appreciate having EQ knobs, I found that I didn't get the best sound out of the AU-4 until I used software EQ to make more targeted adjustments. To me, it always sounded a little bit mid-forward, no matter what I did to adjust the treble and bass. So I just opened up the EQ in either Apple Music or Spotify and made some slight adjustments in that mid-range that to me got a better balanced sound out of the AU-4. Again, that is also subjective and sort of subject to my own hearing compared to anyone else's, but I personally found it needed a little extra tweaking, not using the knobs that are built into it to really get the best sound out of it. All right, so overall, would I recommend the AU-4 if you're looking for a premium retro-styled Bluetooth speaker? In general, yes, I would. I think the quality lives up to the price, and it's got flexible inputs in addition to aptX compatibility. Let's bring the Marshall Acton 3 back in for consideration here, though. If you're not super concerned with a very compact size or with aptX compatibility, I do think it's worth a look. It does sound a bit better from side angles in my opinion, but it also gets a little bit distorted at higher volumes earlier than the AU-4. So it really depends on whether the AU-4 checks the boxes that are at the top of your priority list. If it does, then it's worth a look because I didn't experience any significant issues that I would call deal breakers. All right, so that'll do it for this video. Let me know what you think of the AU-4 speaker from Airpulse. Let me know if you do pick one up for yourself and how you're liking it. Don't forget to subscribe to the Semi-Pro Tech & Gear channel, and while you're here, check out one of these videos. I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks everybody. See you next time.